Meeting order. I'd like to call the Tuesday, April 21st, 2020 meeting of the Oldsmar City Council to order. Before we start on the agenda, just a couple of things I'd like to highlight. One, due to COVID-19 and the executive order issued by the governor and the county and of course our city to apply CDC guidelines with social distancing, we're holding our meeting virtual tonight. We have invited the public to the city council chambers where they have the ability to watch the meeting live like they normally do. Also, as it relates to public comment, we've invited the public to either attend tonight at the chambers where we have our assistant city attorney, assistant city manager, Felicia Donnelly there, who will assist them in getting on Zoom, or they can sit and watch. And then of course, for any comments for public, any public hearing, we've also instituted a roll call vote. All right. So with that, the next two items on the agenda is the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by our city attorney, Mr. Tom Trask.
Thank you, Mayor. Our Heavenly Father, we meet to serve our community, to use our resources wisely and well, to represent all members of our community fairly, and to make decisions that promote the common good. We recognize our responsibility to the past and the future, as well as the rights and needs of both the individual and our community. As trusted servants, we seek blessings on our deliberations and in our efforts here today. This we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. The next item on the agenda is a citizens open forum. We do have one public hearing later on the agenda. That's item number 7. So anybody who wishes to address the council may do so at this time. We ask that you state your name and address, including your city that you live in, and you have 5 minutes to speak. So with that, I see that we do have somebody who is at council. And so at this time, sir, if you give us your name and your address, then you have 5 minutes to speak, except for on item 7.
Okay, my name is Brad Cantor. My address from the city of Oldsmar is 3935 Tampa Road, Suite 4, Oldsmar. I'm the owner of Cantor and Associates, a CPA firm. Obviously, these are unusual times. I know I have 5 minutes, so I'll be brief. I live in Carrollwood, just so you know. We're building a construction of one building, then a second building on 401 St. Pete Drive, I believe. And my issue is we have a certain amount budgeted for impact fees and stormwater connection. We never had an understanding as to what that total amount would be. We budgeted $15,000 for the impact fees. They came in at around 17. We budgeted stormwater at 7,000, and that's come in significantly higher. So we're about $28,000, and we're not exactly sure. We still have a definitive number, which is also part of our issue anyway. So I hate to bring this to the council, but we're almost $30,000 over budget. And with the COVID situation, our construction is now postponed. And I am paying interest only, obviously month by month. And, I predict that's going to be somewhere $15,000, $20,000 overage on interest expense alone. And I just really don't have, a solution other than to ask the council, is there some way we can get that reduced in half so I can afford to complete the project? So there's 2 phases. One was the building we're currently building and ready to build. We almost have a complete permit. And then the secondary building would come on a year or 2 online later, was the idea between the 2 parcels we have. I have my contractor, Benny Calzone, if there's any more particular questions. I don't know the details with respect to the construction, but from the budgeting standpoint, that's essentially our issue we're trying to resolve so we can get it moving.
Okay. Well, let me, are you done? I don't want to interrupt you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, that's all. I'm just trying to keep it short to keep it a
Sure.
little narrow for you
5
all. So
minutes.
that's
Okay.
generally the issue. Otherwise, I'd go into more detail, but that's essentially the problem.
Got it. Okay. So let me just say this, and I appreciate you coming to council, and we certainly, kind of did the preliminary, a site, not site plan, but the concept plan review.
Okay.
We had done that, and which is not always the way the order in it went, but I understood it was a financing issue for you. And so I know that our staff was happy to accommodate you so that you could give some assurance to the lender. Here's what I would say to you, and mind you, this is citizens open forum, right?
Sure. Understood.
This is the place to come, though, right? I would never support waiving or reducing impact fees, and I'll tell you why. And this is just me speaking, but it's not an agenda item to vote on. But I want you to understand why it's so significant, because that's how the city pays for infrastructure. And I'm not aware of at any time when we've done something like that. There might be some exceptions as it relates to a builder is doing something greater, like they're building out all the sidewalks on the street, the rest of the way down the street and finishing it out, and they're incurring an expense that we might incur. But I sympathize with you. You know, the only advice that I would give to you on the impact fees, our impact fees haven't gone up any. I mean, they were that when you first came. And
Sure.
so,
Sure.
I don't know who does your budgeting, but probably it might be one of those scenarios where you go back and take a look at that.
Well, I think
certainly.
I just wanted to say, I think because I just want to make sure I don't go beyond your time limit, is I think we're close on the impact fees. That's not really, it's this stormwater connection thing that there was no way to establish a budgeted number to begin with when we did the budget. We still don't have a definitive number other than to say we budgeted 7,000 and that's come in at, significantly higher. So,
Right.
So I think that hookup issue is what's causing this overage, not the impact fee specifically.
Right.
Based on our budgeted, allocation.
I understand that. And listen, I'm not, I think the council is always sympathetic to that. I mean, I'm certainly welcome if anybody would like to make a comment on it. But what I would say to you is this, it's unfortunate. If that's the case, it's unfortunate. But understand that our impact fees are set with it in mind that it's how we pay for infrastructure, and it's not any different than somebody else who is building. The same formula would be applied. It might be a different fee based on the square footage or the number of the amount of
Sure.
faucets and toilets or whatever they might be. But anyhow, but I appreciate your situation. My only other advice to you, which I know you're real familiar with, because I had heard from Michelle Baldwin that you've helped quite a few folks during the pandemic,
Right.
on the
Right.
yeah, and it's greatly appreciated. I don't want you to think it's not by the response you're getting. It's just this isn't, this is not what we do, right? When it comes to that type of thing, it's just it doesn't work. I mean, I've never seen it work. Even though the pandemic, I don't know if that has any impact on what your fees have been. My advice to you would be to go talk to your bank about the situation on the interest only part to see whether or not there's something that they can do, because many of the banks I know are trying to work with everybody. I think probably, I don't know about everybody on the council, but we all kind of have some stories like that as it relates to business. But all right, are there any other council members who wish to comment at this time?
If I may, is the stormwater though the same as the impact fees, or is that
It's part of it.
Oh, that's still considered the same thing as your.
Yeah, it's all of that's part of the impact fees. It's all the infrastructure, because every time somebody builds something, we have additional requirements that get put on the system. And so the way that we're able to impart plan in the future, or whether it's improvements on the street or whatever the particular impact fee is, that's why we have them. So that it's like a scale as we grow.
Sure.
We're not,
Understood.
So in any event, all right.
Bifurcate maybe the properties. That way I'm not paying all the fees on both building sites on one, that I can separate them and defer the other? 'Cause
What I would ask you to do at this point, I would ask you to book an appointment with
Okay.
planning and redevelopment, because they're the ones who can give you those types of answers. The
Okay,
council
fair.
really isn't, in all honesty.
Okay.
All
All
right?
right. Well, thank you
All right,
very much.
thank you.
I appreciate it, everybody. Thank you. I appreciate
All
it.
right. Okay. Do we have anybody else for Citizens Open Forum? No, that's it. All right, I'm going to move on in the agenda. The next item on the agenda is the community minute, which will be presented by our city clerk.
Yes, residential solid waste. Republic Services will no longer be able to take your bulk trash or yard waste curbside and will only take trash and recycling in designated city carts, the ones that can be picked up by the automatic truck. Bulk waste and yard waste can be brought to a community dumpster at the entrance to the Public Works Complex on Hayes Road between the hours of 7 and 3 o'clock, Monday through Friday. And for more information, you can visit myoldsmar.com or call 813-855-5257. And there are a couple more newer, safer at home resources on our website. If you go to the COVID-19 resources at myoldsmar.com, you'll see tabs for Explore, Wellness, Activities, and Education. A lot of this stuff has come from the hard work at Leisure Services. Again, that's myoldsmar.com. And Oldsmar Cares, just a reminder that they need food donations. And so if you're while you're cleaning out the pantry and at home cleaning up stuff, go ahead and send your donations over to Oldsmar Cares. For more information, you can go to oldsmarcares.org. That's all I have.
Excellent. Excellent. All right, next item on the agenda is awards and recognition. We have none scheduled for tonight. The next category is Community Redevelopment Agency. We have one item, approved minutes from March 4th, 2020 work session on the Oldsmar Town Center. The chair will entertain a motion to approve those minutes. I have a motion by by Councilmember Gannon, seconded by Councilmember Saraki. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Norris,
Yes.
Councilmember Saraki,
Yes.
Councilmember Knapp,
Yes.
Councilmember Gannon,
Yes.
Mayor Seidel.
Yes.
Motion to approve minutes of the March 4, 2020 work session on the Oldsmar Town Center passes with 5 votes for and 0 against.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is our consent docket, which will be announced by our city clerk, Ann Nixon.
Item number 2, approve minutes of the April 7, 2020 canvassing board meeting. Item number 3, approve minutes of the April 7, 2020 city council meeting. And item number 4, approve payment to legal counsel for March 2020 legal services.
Thank you. Is there anybody who wishes to pull anything from the consent docket? Seeing none, the chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
So moved.
Councilmember Knapp, seconded by the vice mayor. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Norris,
Yes.
Councilmember Saraki,
Yes.
Councilmember Knapp,
Yes.
Councilmember Gannon,
Yes.
Mayor Seidel.
Yes.
Consent docket is approved with 5 votes for and 0 against.
Excellent. Next item on the agenda, City of Oldsmar, item number 5, approve appointment of Brian Mahoney as city appointed trustee to the firefighter pension board. As some of you know, that in the past, although it's not a policy, official policy, but as practice, we've asked appointees to come before council, so we just have an opportunity to get them to know them a little bit better. I thought under the circumstances, we did want to get the appointment made and that we would not require Mr. Mahoney to come. I think all of our council members know Mr. Mahoney. And so we can't make him sing or dance tonight, but maybe we'll make him come back later. So at this time, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the appointment.
So moved.
So moved Councilmember Gannon, seconded by Vice Mayor Norris. Any discussion?
Thank him for his service when we are able.
Yeah.
There you
Thank
go.
you, Brian.
That's right. We'll hold him to the singing and dancing, although we may not want to appoint him afterwards. I don't know. All right, since you're ready to vote, roll call.
Vice Mayor Norris,
Yes.
Councilmember Saraki,
Yes.
Councilmember Knapp,
Yes.
Councilmember Gannon,
Yes.
Mayor Seidel.
Yes.
Motion to approve appointment of Brian Mahoney as city appointed trustee to the firefighters pension board. It passes with 5 votes for and 0 against.
All right. Thank you. The next item on the agenda, City Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 6, adopt resolution 2020-12, ratifying executive orders 2020-11, 2020-12, and 2020-13. I'll read that resolution by title only. Resolution 2020-12, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, ratifying executive order 2020-11, which provides for the extension of the COVID-19 state of emergency through April 13th, 2020, ratifying executive order 2020-12, which recognizes the effect of the governor's executive order 2020-91 on the City of Oldsmar's executive order 2020-04, closing all gyms in the city limits. Ratifying executive order 2020-13, which provides for the extension of the COVID-19 state of emergency through April 20th, 2020, and providing for an effective date hereof. That was the reading of resolution 2020-12 by title only, and that was not my dog.
That might have been the mayor's.
Okay.
All right, thank you. The chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
So moved, Councilmember Saraki, seconded by Councilmember Knapp. Discussion. Sensing you're ready to vote, roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Norris? Oh, she's muted.
I was muted, sorry. Yes.
Councilmember Saraki?
Yes.
Councilmember Knapp?
Yes.
Councilmember Gannon?
Yes.
Mayor Seidel?
Yes.
Resolution 2020-12, ratifying executive orders 2020-11, 2020-12, and 2020-13 is adopted with 5 votes for and 0 against.
Excellent. Item number 7.
This is a public hearing and first reading of ordinance 2020-07, granting Tampa Electric Company a non-exclusive franchise for the use of rights of way for the maintenance and operation of electric system. As some background on this franchise is a franchise that the city has entered into before. The last one was in 1994 for 25 years, and so it is up for renewal. Some of the major terms are that this is going to be a 15-year franchise with an automatic renewal clause unless either party objects to that extension. The franchise fee remains at 6%, although the ordinance specifically defines that percentage. The previous franchise did not. And consistent with the Florida statute 334.03, there's a provision that requires TECO to adjust and alter and relocate facilities if the city determines that those facilities unreasonably interfere with the safe, convenient, and continuous use of any public road. And lastly, included as an additional item in this franchise is that TECO will assign appropriate staff to the city's Oldsmar Emergency Operations Center and adequate crews to provide assistance during emergencies. I'll read that ordinance by title only. Ordinance 2020-07, an ordinance of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, providing a short title, providing findings and intent, granting Tampa Electric Company a non-exclusive franchise to use the public streets, alleys, highways, waterways, bridges, easements, and other public ways of the City of Oldsmar for the construction, maintenance, and operation of electric system in the City of Oldsmar, prescribing the terms and conditions under which said non-exclusive rights and privileges may be exercised, providing a severability clause, effective date, and repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith. That was the first reading of ordinance 2020-07 by title only.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Is there anybody from the public who wishes to speak? I see there is none. We'll close the public hearing. At this time, the chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
So moved Vice Mayor Norris, seconded by Councilmember Gannon. Any discussion? I have one comment. I will tell you this about TECO, something that we've learned, I think, a lot about them going through this crisis. And that is just how they've stepped up. At least I feel that they've really stepped up and communicated well. And certainly their willingness to immediately jump in and agree not to cut people off of their electric bill. They've been a good community partner. So I'm really, this couldn't have come at a better time because they kind of just proved their worth to me beyond the economics, quite frankly. Councilmember Knapp?
I just had a quick question, or just a point to clarify. So this will only renew once automatically, right? And then after that, it would be basically time to review at the 30-year period?
Basically, you can review it at the 15-year period by just basically telling TECO that you're not interested in renewing it for the additional 15. If there is no objection at the 15-year mark, then it will move forward for one more 15-year mark, and then it will terminate.
Gotcha. All right, that makes sense. So that basically we just got to figure things out within 6 months prior to the end of the first 15-year term if things need to change or be addressed.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had.
Vice Mayor.
I just wanted to commend staff, whoever it was that got the term down to 15 years, because after going through the agreement and addressing some of the questions that I had with Al and Felicia regarding the possibility of in the future having some kind of renewables that are in the mix, we will have the opportunity at the 15-year mark as opposed to 30 or 25. We'll be able to, make those changes and take into consideration changes in the energy market. So I just want to say how much I appreciate that the terms are 15 years instead of 25 years. And again, what they're doing, what TECO is doing without, not taking, not cutting off people's electricity, that's a big deal for a lot of people. So a lot of people appreciate that. So that's it.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilmember Saraki.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say one thing about our representative, Holly. I was in contact with her the last week, and we had a problem on Oakleaf. A big transformer blew up. She took care of it. The service people were out immediately within an hour. We were back up. The whole street was back up. I believe that TECO is doing an amazing job for the city, and I am thankful that they're here. And I just wanted to give kudos out to Holly for all her hard work and just thank you.
Excellent point. Are there any other comments? Councilmember Gannon.
I guess I just wanted to echo the statements of our vice mayor in that I appreciate that this item has been on the agenda since I think January. And I know that our city attorney, our city manager, and our assistant city manager and a lot of folks have put in a lot of hours negotiating these terms to get it down to written form, what we have in front of us tonight. So thank you all very much for your hard work.
You're welcome.
That's a very good point. They've really been burning the energy. See what I did? Okay, sensing you're ready to vote, roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Norris,
Yes.
Councilmember Saraki,
Yes.
Councilmember Knapp,
Yes.
Councilmember Gannon,
Yes.
Mayor Siddell.
Yes.
First reading of ordinance 2020-07, granting Tampa Electric Company a non-exclusive franchise to use public rights of ways for the maintenance and operation of an electric system passes with 5 votes for and 0 against.
Thank you, Mayor. That's all I have.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 8 is approve and execute the interlocal agreement between Pinellas County and the City of Oldsmar for water quality monitoring and assessment. Should be fresh on everybody's mind. The City of Oldsmar is a co-permittee with Pinellas County for the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, which you'll more often hear referred to as NPDES. Municipal Separate Stormwater System, also known as the MS4 permit. The permittees are required, either individually or collaboratively, to monitor for water quality data and provide a summary report annually to gauge the effectiveness of each respective stormwater management program and identify local sources where the MS4 is adversely affecting surface water quality. We distributed this morning to the council at Councilmember Knapp's request for a visual review of the deliverable from this. So we sent you the report that was produced last year so you could kind of see where the data goes. This agreement that's considered by council tonight will be in effect from October 1, 2020 through September 30, 2025. The annual cost of this monitoring will be funded in the stormwater utility budget, and staff recommends approval.
Thank you. The chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
So moved. Councilmember
Second.
Knapp, seconded by Councilmember Gannon. Discussion. Sensing you're ready to vote, roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Norris,
Yes.
Councilmember Saraki,
Yes.
Councilmember Knapp,
Yes.
Councilmember Gannon,
Yes.
Mayor Siddell.
Yes.
Motion to approve and execute the interlocal agreement between Pinellas County and the City of Oldsmar for water quality monitoring and assessment passes with 5 votes for and 0 against.
Thank you.
Mayor, item 9 is request council approval to waive bid requirements and approve the purchase of a remote slope mower from Alamo Industrial per the pricing, terms, and conditions of the Florida Sheriff's Association contract number FSA 18-VEH 16.0 on piggyback form 19-003B. The city's innovation team has been tasked to identify various ways to improve operations that help increase the efficiencies of the workforce. Some of the past ideas from the team that have been implemented include the global work order system and the automated sandbagging machine. Another idea researched and brought forward from this team in 2019 was to implement the use of a remote-controlled slope mower. This mower would be utilized to maintain grass areas on hills, such as those at the BMX facility, as well as difficult-to-maintain grass areas. Did I do it, Chip? And heavy brush areas located within the park system and along drainage ditches. Use of this mower, which can operate at angles of up to 50 degrees, will allow for staff to maintain these types of areas without having to ride on equipment or operate a push mower where there's a steep incline or decline. This will allow them to not only perform their job more effectively and efficiently, but more safely as well. Funding is available in the general fund Oldsmar Sports Complex budget. The dollar amount is $47,474, and staff recommends approval.
Thank you. The chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
So moved by Vice Mayor, seconded by Councilmember Saraki. Discussion. Sensing you're ready to vote, roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Norris,
Yes.
Councilmember Saraki,
Yes.
Councilmember Knapp,
Yes.
Councilmember Gannon,
Yes.
Mayor Seidel.
Yes. Item number 10.
Motion to waive bid requirements and approve the purchase of a remote slope mower from Alamo Industrial passes with 5 votes for and 0 against.
Item number 10.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 10 is request council approval to waive bid requirements and award the purchase of a 2020 Kobelco SK75 SR hydraulic excavator to Great Southern Equipment per the Florida Sheriff's Association bid FSA 19-VEH 17.0 on piggyback form 20-007A. Public Works is requesting the purchase of a new 2020 Kobelco SK75 hydraulic excavator per the contract mentioned above. This equipment is used to excavate ditches, installation of drainage structures, and removal of asphalt, and will be replacing item number 269, which will be sold at public auction. The piggyback purchase of this excavator will be under the same pricing terms and conditions as the Florida Sheriff's Association contract previously mentioned and is valid through September 30th, year 2020. The cost of this equipment based on the Sheriff's contract is $95,745, and funding for the purchase is available in the fiscal year 1920 capital improvement budget in the Streets Division. Staff recommends approval.
Okay, the chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
So moved Vice Mayor, seconded
Second.
by Councilmember Gannon. Discussion. Councilmember Saraki.
Question for Al. I should have asked you this in my meeting, Al, but I didn't. Do we have any idea what the old one we can sell that for?
We do not. It's usually a Tampa machinery auction. It's a bid process. Sometimes we get pleasantly surprised. Sometimes we don't. But we don't generally sell to private individuals. So it's kind of, we send it to auction and see what happens.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Sensing you're ready to vote, roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Norris,
Yes.
Councilmember Saraki,
Yes.
Councilmember Knapp,
Yes.
Councilmember Gannon,
Yes.
Mayor Seidel.
Yes.
Motion to approve waiving bid requirements and award purchase of 2020 Kobelco SK75 SR hydraulic excavator to Great Southern Equipment passes with 5 votes for and 0 against.
Thank you. Item number 11.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 11 is authorize the city attorney to prepare ordinance VAC 2001, which is a consideration for the vacation of the unnamed alley located south of Tampa Road, north of Commerce Street, and east of Fairfield Street. City of Oldsmar has been acquiring land within the town center district for future development. The most recent purchase was completed in 2018 for the parcel located at 101 Fairfield Street. As a result of this purchase, the city owns all the land south of Tampa Road, north of State Street, and west of Washington Avenue. I believe that should say north. Well, it does apply to north of State Street. That's true. I was referring to north of Commerce. The city has demolished the existing building, which is located at 101 Fairfield, is in the process of negotiations for future development of the property, which council is aware of. The planning board met on February 12th, 2020, and recommended approval of both vacations for the portion of Fairfield Street right away and the unnamed alley. However, we're only asking the council to approve the vacation of the unnamed alley because we're still in negotiation over utilities on the other parcel. It was presented to planning board, I think, to be kind of take care of it all at one particular shot at it. So we're asking council specifically only to vacate the unnamed alley. The staff recommends approval of the vacation of that alley. And that's my report.
Thank you. Chair will entertain a motion to approve.
Move.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Saraki, a second by Councilmember Gannon. Discussion. I think everyone understands this. We own the property on both sides now. It's kind of nice.
Yeah.
For the
Move it
time being.
along.
Yeah. Since you get ready to vote, roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Norris,
Yes.
Councilmember Saraki,
Yes.
Councilmember Knapp,
Yes.
Councilmember Gannon,
Yes.
Mayor Seidel.
Yes.
Motion to approve the vacation of an unnamed alley is approved with 5 votes for and 0 against.
Thank you. Next item.
Actually, I just wanted to clarify, that was just to
Yes.
authorize the city attorney to prepare it. So
Absolutely.
we'll bring it back to you.
Excellent.
Okay.
Getting ahead of yourself there, City Clerk.
I guess so.
I like it. I like it.
All right, item number 12.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 12 is adopt resolution 2020-08, authorizing the local agency program or LAP agreement with the Florida Department of Transportation for the construction and construction engineering inspection services for the Oldsmar Trail Phase 6 project, which is on Douglas Road from Stevens Avenue to Racetrack Road. This resolution authorizes the mayor and city manager to execute the LAP agreement between the city and DOT for the construction and construction engineering inspection of a multi-purpose trail along Douglas Road from Stevens Avenue to Racetrack Road. The project is funded by the Federal Highway Administration, or FHWA, through a LAP Transportation Alternative Program grant with DOT for $1,397,669, which provides $1,168,975 in federal funds and $228,694 in local city funds to reach the projected total. The Oldsmar Trail Phase 6 was originally designed by Cardno, Incorporated, to extend from Hayes Road to Racetrack Road along Douglas. Upon completion of the design, the estimated cost of the project exceeded the funding from the FHWA. Therefore, city staff requested that the project be broken into 2 construction phases, this being the first. The first segment will be constructed and will extend from Racetrack to Stevens. This segment was determined to be the most critical for mobility and economic development. Sufficient funding is in the Capital Improvement Fund, and I'd like to read the resolution by title only. Resolution 2020-08, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, approving the local agency program agreement between the State of Florida Department of Transportation, or FDOT, and the City of Oldsmar, numbered 415-738-7-58-01 and 415-738-7-68-01, authorizing the mayor and city manager to sign the agreement on behalf of the city and providing for an effective date hereof. Mayor, that concludes the reading of resolution 2020-08.
The chair will entertain a motion to approve. So moved, Councilmember Gannon. Second. Seconded by Councilmember Knapp. Any discussion? Yay, Councilmember Knapp.
I've got a question or just a point I'd like to make. I think this is a great, segment to start working on. But at that west end, once we get to Stevens, there's really no other sidewalk there at that point. So I get it to the point that, we'll be able to connect to that portion of the roadway, but then we kind of have sidewalk that runs north-south only starting at the southern end of Nielsen. So it's probably just something to keep in mind. I know that's not part of the scope of this project, but that'll probably help tie up to those businesses further north off of off of Douglas.
Excellent. Excellent point. Any other comments? All right. Well, this has been a long time coming, so it's nice to see it And it's important.
Yeah.
It's important. Big time. So I'll chair, since you're ready to vote, roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Norris,
Yes.
Councilmember Saraki,
Yes.
Councilmember Knapp,
Yes.
Councilmember Gannon,
Yes.
Mayor Seidel.
Yes.
Resolution 2020-08, authorizing the local agency program agreement with Florida Department of Transportation is adopted with 5 votes for and 0 against.
Excellent. Item number 13.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 13 is accept the selection committee's ranking for 2020-001-RFP, which is professional services for a climate resiliency plan, and authorize the award to the highest ranking firm from the process, WSP USA Incorporated. The city advertised an RFP for a climate resiliency plan in November 2019. 7 firms submitted proposals and an evaluation committee conducted an initial evaluation on January 23rd, 2020. The submitted proposals from all firms were complete and responsive. The committee scored and ranked the proposals based on specific selection criteria outlined in the RFP. 4 of the 7 firms were invited to return for presentation and interviews. This was held on February 27th, 2020, to provide clarifications of their proposals and additional review for the technical approach. WSP USA Incorporated and Greenman Peterson Incorporated initially tied for number 1 following the presentations. However, further committee discussion resulted in a unanimous decision to rank WSP USA Incorporated number 1 based on the technical approach and public engagement. The final committee ranking was as follows. WSP USA was number 1, Greenman Peterson number 2, Health Associates number 3, Coastal Risk Consulting number 4, Collective Water Resources number 5, HDR number 6, WRT number 7. Staff recommends the award to WSP USA Incorporated. Contract will come back to council for final approval, and funds are available in the Environmental Management Division of the Water Sewer Operating Fund in the amount of $125,000.
Thank you. Chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
I have a motion
Second.
by Vice Mayor, seconded by Councilmember Knapp. Discussion. Councilmember Gannon.
I know that, thank you, Mayor. I know that we don't know yet if we will receive this grant for half of the funding, but do we have any idea of the sort of back-end requirements for this grant? If they're extensive of staff time such that it's not worth the $75,000, if you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Sure.
The grant is actually for additional work as kind of the best way I can describe it is we've done a lot of the work that will qualify us for the grant, but the $75,000 won't kick in unless we do the additional work. So if the end result was $200,000 project, we would get 75. So our net is going to be 125, but the way the grant program was structured, it was required for us to do this much. So as far as what it's going to require, I don't know much about that. I suspect that maybe a member of the committee, of which several are here tonight, could comment on that. But at this point, I can't tell you that I know that.
Okay. And then my only other question was that it appeared that WSP USA and Greenman Peterson Inc. had the same total and same average of scores. So I just wanted to know what tipped it one way or the other if they had the same score.
Well, as I read the item, it said once they addressed the final score, the interviews had the entire committee deciding that between public engagement and technical competence, they decided once they addressed both that WSP was the better firm for us. It said, last sentence said they were number 1 based on the technical approach and public engagement. I think that was derived from the interviews after the presentations.
Okay, so the non sort of lingo was discussions after the presentation. Technical approach and public engagement, I didn't quite get. Like, what's the public engagement part of this? Because the deliverable is to the city, right?
Correct, but I think the purpose of the evaluation committee was to see who they felt would make the best presentation and deliverable. And I think the public engagement comment might have been related to the thought that they would, whatever public comments or presentations they have to make, they would do a better job.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
Anyone else? Vice Mayor.
Those were some good questions, Councilmember Gannon. I just want to say again that I was there when they gave their presentations, and when they got to the tied vote, and then they asked the follow-up questions, and the two companies that tied answered them and showed what they would do. It was unanimous, and I didn't say a word during the whole thing. I was just a witness, but I'm just really happy to see this going forward, and thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Sensing you're ready to vote, a roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Norris,
Yes.
Councilmember Saraki,
Yes.
Councilmember Knapp,
Yes.
Councilmember Gannon,
Yes.
Mayor Saraki, and Mayor Seidel.
Mayor Saraki. Wow.
Oops.
Wow, you just got promoted. Yes. Yes, assistant city clerk. Oh, excuse me. City
Yes,
clerk.
I guess so, yes. So motion to accept
Kathy's down there going,
evaluation.
no.
Oh, motion to accept the evaluation committee's ranking for 2020-001-RFP, professional services for a climate resiliency plan, and authorized to award to the highest ranking firm, WSP USA, passes with 5 votes for and 0 against.
Thank you. And I know that there's going to be a lot of good actionable stuff that comes from that plan. Isn't that right? Isn't that right? I see Nan shaking her head. Okay. All right, item number 14.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 14 is approve amendment number 3 to RFQ 16-03 for Jones, Edmonds and Associates to continue to provide professional engineering services during the construction of Harbor Palms Phase 1. In 2016, Jones Edmonds, or as we know them, JEA, was selected via the above-mentioned RFQ to complete the design phase of the Harbor Palms infrastructure improvement projects. Amendment number 2, construction services, which is also known as task number 6, authorized by City Council on April 16, 2019, provided Phase 1 construction services as anticipated in the 2016 Design Services Agreement. The proposed amendment number 3 will provide an extension of construction engineering services through the duration of Phase 1 construction. The course of construction differences found in the configuration of existing utilities, design clarifications, and changes to construction sequencing to reduce impacts to residents have delayed the schedule. This is not terribly unusual. Amendment number 3 provides for the consultant to be compensated on a time and materials basis for the professional services as needed during the additional 6 months that's anticipated for the completion for an amount not to exceed $36,000. Funds are split between funds 401, 302, and 405, and they'll make for a total on the existing purchase order of $95,000. The increment that we're asking council approval for is an additional 36, as I mentioned before. Staff recommends approval.
Thank you, sir. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Vice Mayor, I have a motion to approve by Vice Mayor, seconded by Councilmember Saraki. Discussion. It's not important to have that done over there, is it? Never mind. All right, Setching, you ready to vote? Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Norris,
Yes.
Councilmember Saraki,
Yes.
Councilmember Knapp,
Yes.
Councilmember Gannon,
Yes.
Mayor Seidel.
Yes.
Motion to approve amendment number 3 to RFQ number 16-03 for Jones Edmonds and Associates to continue to provide professional engineering services during construction for Harbor Palms Phase 1 passes with 5 votes for and 0 against.
Excellent. Is that all you got, City Manager?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. City Clerk? Do you have
For
anything?
your patience. That's all I have.
All right, very good. Next item on the agenda, City Council, item number 15, discuss holding or canceling advisory board meeting scheduled after April 18, 2020. So we have some upcoming meetings. I will share with you probably the most pressing that would take place prior to our next meeting would be that of the Veterans Advisory Board. I spoke with their chairman today, John Ruckert, and he had shared with me that he would really like them to meet and like them to meet via Zoom, virtually. He felt comfortable that they'd all be capable of doing that. We did discuss, clearly the part of the importance of the meeting is Memorial Day. No, and I will share with you all my views on that as it relates to Memorial Day. I think ultimately that is not even going to be a decision for us to make. I have a feeling that as a result of the executive orders, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on in terms of reopening and, you know, what's the school of thought and that kind of stuff. But I think that it's very probable that under the executive order by the governor, even though it currently expires at the end of this month, you know, if you get into the president's plan, which the governor has said that he feels is a good outline, it would essentially mean if everything went perfect before we get to Memorial Day, we might be in phase 2 if everything went perfect. And that precludes any social gatherings of greater than 50 people. And so there's some issues like that, but they're going to discuss them. They're well aware of that, but they would like to meet. I think it's a smart idea for them to meet. So I would propose that we take the Veterans Advisory Board off the table of consideration for holding or canceling. Excuse me, discuss holding it. Well, I would suggest that we continue to hold that. Does anybody have any comments as it relates to that meeting?
I think that
Councilmember Knapp?
Do we have, none of the boards have met via Zoom yet, is that correct?
That's
This
correct.
would be the first kind of the guinea pig trial outside of our group?
That will be correct.
Okay, so is that kind of more what we would maybe want to try for, is get a feel for doing it for one board before potentially opening up to any of these others?
Well, yeah, and I think, I certainly open to comments, but I think probably the hope is that we get a better feel by our next meeting where we're at, right? We have a meeting on May 5th, which the only other conflict there is with the Ordinance Review Committee, which I think that can be postponed, or that meeting itself canceled with a follow-up meeting. But the hopes are, I think, for a lot of people, are that this meeting virtually won't have to continue for a very long period. It might mean that when we go back to meeting, certainly we embrace social distancing in that setting to an extreme. So any other comments or thoughts, council members? All right, so Councilmember Gannon, you had your hand up.
I can't, I'm trying to stop myself, but I can't. If it goes okay, if the Zoom goes okay for the Veterans Advisory Board on April 27th, could we consider allowing the Ordinance Review Committee to meet via Zoom on May 4th, since it'll fall before our next meeting on May 5th?
We can. I mean, I don't think it makes sense to do that. The only reason I say that is that, for the city clerk's office, there's some questions that get raised with these committee meetings, right? Number one, of course, as we all know, we have to make sure everyone has equipment, that they have equipment that's working. Then the question that gets raised is, if they don't have equipment, is the city now responsible to provide them with equipment? And so, I mean, I would ask for our city attorney's input, because I know that he's been meeting with them. And so, Tom, any thoughts?
I don't think it's critical to have the meeting. Everything that we're doing, we can do next month or the month after that. There is nothing that is on the agenda that is so critical that we're going to be needing to ask you to adopt an ordinance. The process is go through the entire code, issue a report, have a workshop on it, get some direction from the council on which of those changes do you want to make, if any, and then ultimately come forward with an ordinance or more. I just don't think that it's critical for the Ordinance Review Committee to meet. We can still get our work done, and it's important work, but I just don't think that it's critical at this point.
Thanks for your input, Tom.
Is there anyone else? All right, so I'm going to entertain a motion to cancel the May 4th meeting. Well, let's hold up. Code Enforcement Board is 2 days after our next meeting. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and it would
Yes.
also require legal advertisement or different notices to people.
It requires a 10-day notice prior to the date of the meeting at least, as a minimum. So we would have to get it out sometime around April 25th, maybe even a little bit sooner than that. And I will tell you that I'm concerned about these quasi-judicial hearings because when we have them, there's always an argument, a technical argument that can be made that due process hasn't been given because of access to the board, access to presenting evidence, access to testifying. There's also a question as to how we put them under oath. Does it require a notary in the actual location where the individual is testifying from? There are all sorts of issues. So my suggestion is that if we can wait until we get back to actual meetings, that's the way to do it on the quasi-judicial ones, unless it's absolutely necessary that we do it. I know that there were a couple of things on the Code Enforcement Board agenda. It's the first time that they've gonna have a meeting in probably a year. They haven't had a meeting in a long, long time. I just don't know from staff whether or not that those two cases are critical to move forward, or whether or not another month is there gonna be an issue? So two concerns on the quasi-judicial boards, that being the Code Enforcement Board and the Board of Adjustment. I am concerned about that. And I'm also reminding the council that the executive order only allows us to have these virtual meetings through May 8th. If the governor does not extend it, these virtual meetings are gonna have to stop. So we gotta think about that too. We really don't know what the governor is gonna do, but right now we only allowed to do these virtual meetings through May 8th. So those are some thoughts.
All right, so I would suggest that we cancel the Ordinance Review Committee on May 4th and Code Enforcement Board meeting on May 7th and stop there. Because quite honestly, past that, we don't know if we're going to be able to do them virtually or not, and we meet again on the 5th. All right?
Mayor, do
So,
you need a motion?
Councilmember Saki?
You need a motion for that?
I do.
I
Yeah,
make
I
a
was just gonna,
motion to approve.
Motion to approve, and that is to cancel the meeting on May 4th for the Ordinance Review Committee and May 7th on the Code Enforcement Board. Do I
Yes.
have a second? Second,
Second.
Councilmember Gannon. Any more discussion? Seeing none, sensing you're ready to vote, you know, I just want to go right in there and say, raise your hands, but we'll stick to the roll call. All right, roll call, please.
I'd just like to clarify the motion. Does that include holding the Veterans Advisory Board? So that would be virtual or no?
That will be virtual. We're not making any change to it other than it's going to be held virtual.
Okay. All right, Vice Mayor Norris,
Oh, yes.
Councilmember Saraki,
Yes.
Councilmember Knapp,
Yes.
Councilmember Gannon,
yes.
Mayor Seidel.
Yes.
Motion to cancel May 4th Ordinance Review Committee and the May 7th Code Enforcement Board meetings is passed with 5 votes for and 0 against.
All right, excellent. Thank you. Moving right along, the next item on the agenda is approval of the tentative agenda. Is there anybody who wishes to pull anything from the tentative agenda? Sensing you're ready to vote, the chair will entertain a motion to approve.
Mayor, I have a question.
Sure.
The
Ma'am.
award the contest winners, would that be something that we can do virtually on awards and recognitions, or is that something that maybe we should put off to the next meeting?
That's a good question.
Because
If I
those
may,
kids
Mayor?
work so hard on those, and it's so nice to be able for them to get their recognition.
May I speak to that?
Why don't we do this from a, what item is that?
It is under awards and recognitions.
Okay.
So
So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna ask that we pull that item, awards and recognition. Is it specific? I'm having a hard time pulling up what, oh, there it is. Never mind. Hold on.
It's AIR 0990.
but it really holds for all 3 presentations.
All right, so why don't we just pull awards and recognition?
That's what I would suggest, yeah.
All right. For the purpose of pulling the, so what I'll do is I'll entertain a motion to approve the tentative agenda with those items pulled.
So moved.
I have a motion
Second.
for the vice mayor, seconded by vice mayor. I almost called her vice mayor again. Council member Gannon, roll call, please.
Vice Mayor
Discussion,
Norris?
roll call.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris?
Yes.
Councilmember Saraki?
Yes.
Councilmember Knapp?
Yes.
Councilmember Gannon?
Yes.
Mayor Seidel?
Yes. All right, I'll come back to the discussion as it relates to awards and recognition. Would anybody like to make a motion that be postponed to the next agenda?
I would like to make that motion for it to be postponed for the next one in the event that it is going to be an in-person appearance for all of these
Right,
awards.
so I have a motion right now to postpone awards and recognition to the following city council meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Saraki, discussion.
If I could ask,
Councilmember-
thank you, Mayor. If I could ask Vice Mayor Norris to possibly amend her motion to allow awards and recognition from meetings that have been missed in March and April for, I guess they would be awards in arrears to be presented at a later date as well.
Sure.
All right, so we have an
Remember-
amendment. We have an amendment to ask, to add to that column award. So do we really want to put them all in one night?
Maybe
Well,
not
just-
all in one night.
Yeah, just future meetings, future in-person meetings.
So why don't I make this suggestion for just a parliamentary procedure standpoint, that we go ahead and approve the motion that's on the floor, and that, so that we kind of don't make it an awards night per se, right? So what we would probably do then on the next tentative agenda, we could see that is presented to us. So when we approve the next tentative agenda for the meeting past that, so we would
Okay.
work them back in. If
Got
you're okay with that.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you, Mayor.
There's no amendment to vote on then
Correct.
to the main motion? Okay. All right, so is there any other discussion on the main motion? Sensing none, roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Norris?
Yes.
Councilmember Saraki?
Yes.
Councilmember Knapp?
Yes.
Councilmember Gannon?
Yes.
Mayor Seidel?
Yes.
Motion to move awards and recognitions to future meetings in person passes with 5 votes for and 0 against.
Excellent. I think that was a good recommendation, Vice Mayor.
Thank you.
Yes. All right, council comments. I'm going to start with Councilmember Saraki.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Thank you for letting me go first. I have a couple things. On Friday, last week Friday on the 17th, the Suncoast League of Cities had our first virtual board meeting. There were 17 people on the meeting. I must say it was very interesting. But one of the things that we discussed was the awards dinner that was going to be on I believe it was May 16th, has been postponed. And it's now postponed until September 19th, unfortunately. So in the interim, we are trying to work out with Judge Reba. He will be swearing me in, hopefully May 1st or May 2nd, become the president of the Suncoast League of Cities. I will keep everyone updated by email once that date is confirmed. If he can't do it, then Ann Nixon will do it for me, and I appreciate that, Ann. We want to get that done. So that's,
Excellent.
yep, thank you. One of the priorities of the Suncoast League. And the other thing is, during the meeting, I announced, because of Mayor Randall Henderson of the city of Fort Myers is going to be running for the United States Congress, which he announced today on Facebook. I will be running for the first vice president of the Florida League of Cities.
Wow. Well, congratulations.
Wow.
I'm pretty excited about it. I don't know what's going to happen. There are 4 other candidates that are running for second VP and first VP. So I'm not sure what will happen, but I'm going to give it 100%. And I need the city council and the city staff support. This is a big thing and I'm going for it and I'm not looking back.
Well, there you go. Well, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Good job. Good job.
Last thing I have, Mayor, is I'm going to be sending that letter out tomorrow because it's Earth Day. And as I told Ann, tomorrow is my grandfather's youngest brother, Uncle Stanley's birthday. And Earth Day is his birthday. And he was the one who did a lot for our environment. And I'm really looking forward to sending that letter out to the Florida League of Cities and the nominating committee of the Florida League of Cities. And about a month and a half ago, when I first thought about running, Ann Nixon and I had a meeting, and we brainstormed about a mantra. And Ann actually came up with all cities count. And I don't know if you can see this, but I have a little button here. Yeah, all cities count.
I like it.
Ooh.
My wife designed this. It's got a little state with a bunch of stars. And that's going to be my mantra, my slogan, and I'm going for it. And with that, happy birthday, everybody, and thank you.
Nice job. Congratulations. All right. Council Member Gannon.
Thank you, Mayor. First, super congratulations to Dan Saraki. Thank you so much for that announcement. I look forward to that dinner. It'll be wonderful, even if it's in September. I can't wait to see that letter too. Can you maybe you can give a copy of your nominating letter to Ann to circulate to the rest of the council. I would love to see that.
I gave the letter to Ann around 5 o'clock today. It's finally done and edited. We're going to be mailing it out this week. And Ann, if you could do that for me, I'd be greatly appreciated.
Yeah. Second, I wanted to thank our Assistant City Manager, Felicia Donnelly, for updating me on the progress of our art project. Remember those giant wings, y'all? They're still coming. It's still happening.
They're taking flight.
They are going. The project is still taking flight. I understand he had modified the design a little bit, but he's got plenty of time now, like we all do, to stay at home and do some hard work. So I just wanted to remind our citizens that that project is coming forward. It will happen. It's in the works. Also, our city, believe it or not, thank you to former Mayor Doug Vivas for letting everybody know that our city is second in responsiveness to the census. So for Pinellas County, our city is second only to Safety Harbor, our frequent nemesis, wink, nod, Mayor's Coffee. So I just want to encourage everybody to respond to the census while we have a couple more days here of guaranteed quarantine and shelter in place, to go ahead and fill that out and make sure that all people count in addition to all of those cities, because it matters in terms of dollars. Congratulations to our Public Works Director, Nan Bennett, on her first baby grandchild. That's such a wonderful, wonderful picture that I saw in the employee newsletter. And kudos to the staff for getting the employee newsletter online. It looked great in virtual format, although I must say I am old school and still like to hold it in my hands, but I thought it was really cool that it was still delivered virtually. And I just wanted to thank our staff. It seems like I see, maybe it's because I'm home more, but it seems like I see our leisure services and public works staff constantly doing things right now. Maybe they're focused on these specific outdoor projects, but I see a lot of sidewalk work, the continuation of our sidewalk program. I see a lot of work going on in the parks. I just wanted to say thank you to Chip and Nan and all of their team for the hard work. So keep it up. We're nearly toward the light at the end of this long tunnel. Hopefully we'll see some sort of relief in the coming days from the shelter in place order. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Nat.
Thank you, Mayor. I got a couple of things. First off, Dan, congrats. I think we're not surprised by your course of action, and I'm sure you will go above and beyond and hopefully come out on top. As far as, I just want to quickly comment on the bulk waste over here. I live right around across the street from the collection area, and it's pretty well signed. You know, that's a great job for city staff on doing that. And it does seem like people are pulling in and out of there pretty regularly. So, you know, people aren't leaving things to just accumulate on the side of the road, hoping that trash will pick it up. They are being responsible and getting it over to the bulk collection point. then just a couple of positive highlights in light of everything that's going on. The chamber did an awesome job recently with distributing meals to our frontline workers at the hospital. So I wanted to give them a really big shout out. I mean, I'm sure I've got family, not the closest of family, but family that are out there working in the trenches. And it's just amazing. And those workers, I'm sure, really appreciate all the efforts that people are putting in for them. And then finally, one thing I wanted to highlight, there was a Facebook group that I came across called HOWLS, that stands for Helping Oldsmar and Westchase Locate Supplies. And people on there, it's not a lot of members yet, but people are using that kind of as a means where if one store is out of toilet paper still, or eggs or anything like that, people are kind of posting on there. So if you want to check that out, that is something where people can maybe get lucky if they're in a rut trying to find something specific. And I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor.
Okay, so going last, I just have to say, yes, congratulations, Dan, and yes, congratulations, Nan. So I wanted to put that in there. And I also wanted to thank citizens. Being on the city council, a lot of us get calls and emails, and we have to take care of, you don't have to, but I love taking care of people's issues and helping them, get through things. And in the last month, I have had more citizens call, email, and text just to see how we were doing instead of something that they needed. And in my meeting with Al and Felicia, they asked if I had, and I'm like, gosh, no, I don't have any issues that I have to have taken care of, but it's nice that citizens are reaching out just to, say, how are you doing? Is everything okay? Thanks for what you're doing. So that's kind of nice. Dan beat me to Earth Day and Katie beat me to the art project. But that's great. That just shows that we're all on the same page and that we all care about the same stuff, which I think is great. Specifically on the art project, Donald had a hard time incorporating the Oldsmobile parts in the wings. He didn't like the way that it looked, so he's incorporating them on the supports. And just the little picture that he sent, it looked nice, and it gave the elegance of the wings the same really beautiful look to it. So that was pretty exciting. I want to end on a positive note, so I'm going to talk about something else real quick. For those small companies that applied for the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program, I was one of them, and there's a lot of people that are disappointed. Many of the small businesses didn't get it. The Small Business Association just put out their report, and 17% of the $342 billion went for loans under $150,000. Now it's for an 8-week period.
Oh.
Vice Mayor, how big was it?
He must have cheap internet.
Oh,
You
Can you hear me?
You got stuck right there.
oh,
We're talking
okay.
about the payment protection plan.
Oh, okay. So anyway, so basically 83% of the money went to large companies. The Senate did pass another one, but it has to pass the House. So they are talking about funding it. But for all of you really small companies out there like mine and like hairdressers and, all the people that are really small companies, small mom and pop stores, more money is coming down, and they are addressing Gus Spilarakis' office. They're all addressing it, but it is frustrating, and just know that we feel your pain, and hopefully with this next round, it's going to get better. So it really is too bad that it got taken up so quickly by such big companies, but let's just hold on hope that it's going to be okay. I have to comment on Al. Al, I love your beard. I haven't seen you in a while. So it was like, when I saw you, I was like, am I that unobservant that I didn't know that Al had a beard? But it looks nice. I like it. And then I'm gonna end on a positive note, because I always like to try to be positive. Okay, we know the world is turning upside down with the Buccaneers getting Tom Brady, And now apparently word is out that we're going to be getting Gronkowski as well. So I don't know, I guess even football players come to Florida to retire, but hopefully everything is going to be, not retire, I guess they're going to be playing. Hopefully everything is going to be okay. I don't know how in the world we're going to be able to have games and go to games, but I just think that there are positive things out there, even with all of this that we're going through. And as long as we continue to support one another and be on the same page, I'm hopeful, and I'm just hopeful that there's going to be an end to this. So that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you. All right, I have a couple of things that I'm going to touch on. Congratulations, Dan. I know you've worked hard for this. You've certainly invested the time, so we're proud of you. And we know that you certainly will put your best foot forward and represent the city well. So congratulations on making that decision. And I full-heartedly endorse you for that position. So know that to be the case. I think your council does as well. So couple of things. One item before, I'm going to talk a little bit about COVID-19 and just share a couple of where we're at on some things. But before then, I've been asked by a couple of people this week, and I think all of us have been asked about it over time, and that is the issue of, is there a real reason why the golf cart ordinance does not extend to the entire city limits? Because we get asked this from time to time, and I think the fact that people are at home and those in this side of the town that have golf carts are out riding around, it kind of becomes their, I don't know, their lazy exercise, for lack of a better word, but it's a nice way to go out and ride around. I don't know about everybody else, and I recognize that there are homeowners associations that do not allow golf carts, right? But the city having an ordinance that extended throughout the city limits certainly could be crafted in such a way that it omitted certain roads that we don't own, right? Like Forest Lakes, and there's a couple other roads. But I don't know how council feels about that, asking staff to take a look at that again and maybe bring it back as an agenda item. But I certainly think it's worth looking at. It seems kind of wrong sometimes that depending on where you live in the city, you may or may not be able to have a golf cart if you want one. I've noticed that there's a lot of people who use it not really to go anywhere other than just ride around and maybe go visit friends or park in the driveway during this social distancing and talk to people. So any consensus on that? Nat?
Yes, I not to be a spoiler, but while I was still serving on the ordinance review committee, that topic definitely came up in there. So there definitely seems to be others that are kind of plugged in and aware of the wants of some people that don't have the same permit right now.
Yeah. Councilmember Gannon.
I was just curious as to our city attorney's input on such a ordinance. Would we literally write down the names in the ordinance of the streets that are exempted from?
Of course, there's two ways to do it, and one way is to set forth the streets and neighborhoods that it is allowed, or if there are fewer number of streets, if it's going to go citywide, the streets that you don't want them to be on because of car speed or because of jurisdictional issues, then we could do it just the opposite, citywide except for the following roads. So whatever is the easiest way to accomplish the task is what we would need to do.
Okay. Vice Mayor, you had a question?
Yeah, so is it, I'm not sure if I understand it. Right now we have, we allow golf carts on certain roads. My fear would just be going between, across Tampa Road or the dangerous. Are you saying that there's going to be each neighborhood will have their each individual sections that they could go, or it would be citywide except for you can't cross Tampa Road, you can't go down Forest Lakes? How would that work?
I think it would probably include the roads that we don't own or where there, normally the way it works, I think, is that there's a speed limit issue, that a golf cart can't go a certain speed. that they're unable to go on a road. And the other part of that would be, you know, if we don't own the road, we can't authorize it. Is that correct, Tom?
Well, the real problem is that, for example, county or state roads, you know, the state roads you definitely can't cross over without FDOT's approval. Dunedin had a very hard time getting approval to go over Skinner Boulevard, for example. And I would think that Tampa Road would be one of those roads that FDOT would not allow it because of 6 lanes of traffic and 2 additional turn lanes on each side, and not a median in the center that you could have as a holding spot. So I really doubt that we're going to be able to get that crossover on Tampa Road, for example. But we may be able to accomplish it on county roads. I would need to look into that.
Okay. Councilmember Siraki?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick note, Eastlake Oaks is approved to have golf carts. For example, some of my neighbors take their golf carts over into Harbor Palms, even though that's not a golf cart community. But you have to understand one thing, they are landlocked because they can't go anywhere. They can't cross Tampa Road, they can't go over to Gull Air, and they can't cross Forest Lake. So it's just a small area. I just wanted to bring that up.
Okay. Does anybody object to having staff go look at it and bring it back as a council item to discuss in more detail? Yes? No?
I don't have an
Councilmember
objection to have, thank you. I don't have an objection to having staff look at it and bringing it back as a future agenda item, but maybe not like the May 5th agenda item, you know, like.
Yeah, I would much
not until
rather
after
look at it,
we're able to come back to full staff and full meetings, and then we can talk about things that aren't like super critical.
Good point.
Yeah, I envision it coming. I don't expect council to have something for us to look at in 2 weeks, but rather, you know, we've been asked this question for a long time, going way back, by people in the city, and for some reason it doesn't. I don't remember it ever really being before council, quite frankly. I mean, it had to have been at some times because it's approved on some parts of the community and some parts it's not. So, all right, then I'm going to leave it at that and have them look at it. Besides, I'd like it to be where we get some citizens' input so they could come out and, you know, either say they hate the idea or they love the idea, and let all of us hear it. So, all right, so let me just give a couple of items. I do want to give you kind of an update on the task force that is working on a recovery plan. Let me tell you what they're working on, because I talked to them about it at their last meeting. I've been not participating in the entire meeting, rather than the very beginning of the meeting and then turning it over to them and me getting off the phone. Although the chair has asked if I would stay on the next one, so I will. But what they're working on is a variety of things, and essentially a SWOT analysis to see where they expect the city to be at. The staff has been engaged on contacting all of our businesses and surveying them on what their circumstances are. For those who've responded, it also gives us an indication of who's actually open, who's not open. And I know that Felicia has spearheaded that project. And so we'll probably have some information to look at. They just finished it up, and I think they were able to get a hold of about half of our businesses to see where they're at. And I think that the task force, they're going to come with, in essence, some ideas and recommendations. And I'm going to bring those recommendations to the city council to see what the council thinks of them. And for us to discuss and make changes, whatever we need to do collectively. Hopefully we won't be in this state of emergency for much longer. But in any event, I just wanted to kind of give you an update on that. And we did add someone to the task force, and that was Nick Pappas, who most of you know, who owns here in town, Flamestone, and also Beechwood. And so he's been a big help as well. And I will mention something, you know, you see some of the larger cities like St. Pete and Tampa who are doing these grant programs. And Tarpon Springs is doing a much smaller program. And so I will tell you from the calls with the county that, and this is one of the issues that I asked the task force, because it's all different sectors of the business who work on it. Looking at gaps, like where are the gaps from the different programs that are out there? You got the Paycheck protection program, which sounds, as Vice Mayor indicated, is being refunded. How long that lasts, we'll see. We don't know. That addresses certain needs. The county, so you're aware, and I don't believe that they have the information as of yet, but the administrator told us that they anticipate getting somewhere in the neighborhood of $170 million for relief. They talked about a program providing a $5,000 grant to businesses that have 25 employees or less, and as much as a $4,000 grant to individual families. It was a complete sketch of the program. They have multiple committees who's working on different facets of the COVID-19 crisis. And so they're going to come back to their commission with some concrete ideas once they understand what the requirements are that comes with that money, right? How must it be used? One of the things that the administrator talked to us about on a call was that there will likely be a window at some point for us as cities to propose possible programs that might have funding with it. And so it's kind of coming back to that gap. I spent some time talking to the mayor up in Tarpon, Chris, about their program up there and what they're doing. They're doing $1,000 grants. There's some kind of mixed feelings from the task force as to whether or not that might not be as the right spot for here. But in any event, I think there might be some gaps that they discussed as it relates to helping businesses catch up on their rent, right? Paycheck Protection Program is a program designed, as you know, to help companies that have been impacted by COVID-19 to keep their employees. A small percentage of it is available to be used for things like utilities and rents and that type of stuff. But even then, and even with the governor's orders as they exist today, and landlord not having the ability to evict someone or to foreclose on someone, the bank, there's likely to be a gap there of people who are now in a position of trying to get back to work, trying to get to the revenue stream that they were at, with all their employees still there because they have a paycheck protection plan, hopefully. But there might be an area where what it doesn't address is helping people getting caught up on their rent, right? And I'm specifically talking about the business community because of jobs. And so that's an area that they discuss quite a bit. And so I would expect more to come, and we certainly will talk about it. I've been asked by a lot of people, what do I think based on the calls we're on about the reopening and the timeline. All of us, I'm sure, have looked at and seen what the president proposed in terms of his, the different phases, the gating period to get you to the first phase and then to get you to the second phase. And the gating period, as most of you probably know, maybe some of our citizens don't, that kind of consists of 3 different components. And that is the place that you must go through to be able to be eligible under his plan to go to phase 1. It's symptoms, which is the influenza-like symptoms. There is an actual hospitals report that information already on a regular basis so that it allows the CDC to track where they see potential outbreaks of influenza taking place. We right now as a state and as a region don't have any issues with that requirement. The next one is the issue of cases, number of cases, and it's basically tracked 2 ways, right? It's either for 14 days, you have a downward trend of a reducing number of new cases reported daily, or a reducing percentage of tests that come back positive. It's either or for a 14-day period. So it's either new cases, it's not just new cases, unless you meet that qualification, because what if one day you get, 10,000 more tests, so your number is always going to go up then, right? So it's either or. And the last part of that is related to hospital beds, crisis management in hospitals. If you're no longer having to run your intensive care units under a crisis situation, which we're not. The county, by the way, we're really well situated according to the county administrator and Dr. Chu as to where we stand on available hospital beds. And so that last portion we would meet. It's also involved in testing. It would appear that we're meeting those as well. I'm sure we'll get updated on our call that we had this week with them. But that 14-day trend, and I haven't looked at the numbers this evening, but we were like 5 days into that trend so far. Now, the only reason I mention all this is because the governor has said that, and he'll provide some guidance to us, I'm sure, early next week, if not over the weekend. He has said that he liked the president's plan, and he certainly views it as a possible baseline, right? So if we do kind of some math on that, his order goes to the end of this month anyhow. Let's assume good thoughts that trend continues because we're still doing social distancing. I do not believe that the county, the county's not going to have the ability to make any changes to where we're at with essentials without the governor doing it. It's not in the county's hands. It's really the governor's. And so what's that mean? It goes like this for 14 days. That puts us into May, where you see phase one. And phase one, basically, you must repeat that same phase, that same trend that's required in what they're calling the gating period. You have to redo that again for 14 days. And in phase one, it's non-essential. Businesses can open. They have to apply CDC guidelines. You're allowed to have social gatherings of up to 10 people. There are still some very strict requirements within that. I'd encourage you to go look them up, what the president's plan is. Then after those 14 days, you have another 14-day period as you get into phase two and phase three. And so, but the point is, if everybody kind of stays focused on what we're doing, they certainly, I think it's reasonable to hope that if we can do that for the remainder of this month, and that trend continues, we'll start to see a lot of people be able to go back to work. It won't be the same as normal, but I think that's the case. And what I would say to all of our business owners out there, and I think this is very important, is that they prepare for it. They should go look at that plan and listen, it's subject to change because the governor could come out and have a change of heart and not adopt that plan. He's not required to adopt the president's plan, but I think it's probably smart if you want to do some planning to start looking at that. That's probably going to be an underlying mechanism to it no matter what. That would be my opinion, but it's subject to change. The county could make it stricter, but I don't think they will. And so if I was a business owner, especially in retail, or, my company is fortunate in the fact that it's always been virtual. There's little things in there that you need to be thinking about. Like I'd be out trying to buy those temperature gauges where you can take someone's temperature without touching them, because that's one of the requirements in the president's plan. And what is your plan for your layout and so forth. But in any event, I wanted to mention that because I think it's really important for our businesses to be prepared to move as fast as they can. I know it's going to be important for all of them. Okay, so that's just kind of give you an update on everything that we're doing COVID. You all are well aware as council members, we put out the information through the city clerk's office, what's happening with executive orders, and the good Lord willing that we're going to get through this much sooner than later. So let's just keep focused on the way we're all social distancing and we'll get there fast. All right. With that, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn. I have a
So
motion.
moved.
Motion's Vice Mayor, seconded by Councilmember Saraki. Doesn't require a vote. We are adjourned.
Thank you, Mayor, for the
Thank you,
update.
Mayor.